Hey guys, it's John Francis here with you. So good to be with you, and so good to spend a little time talking about 7 words of worship. First of all, I just wanted to thank you again for just being so there and present on our Zoom meetings. They're Wednesday night, every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. We get together. If you haven't done this yet, join us. We get together and we pray for one another. I talk about what's happening in our worship community here at Parkway Baptist. And so everyone's invited, everyone's welcome. So it just thrill me to death to have you. But today we're going to talk briefly about the 5th word of worship. And this is, again, from the 7 Words of Worship book by Mike Harlan. He kind of throws these words out, and I just kind of step on it and kind of take my take on it. So the 5th word today is expression. Expression is a word that is so important in worship. And in thinking about sharing with you today, I thought about sharing a story about me that's not very complimentary. We all have our gifts and our talents. I know I have some gifts and talents. I don't fall apart on the stage. I'm okay there. I don't necessarily have a solo voice, but I have a worship leading voice, a nice strong voice. But there are things that I wish I could do that I can't do. Case in point. One year, I decided for Christmas to make Kimberly a bread box. We had been making bread, and she'd been doing it, and she'd been like even grinding the wheat and making the bread by hand. It was pretty cool, and I thought, how neat would it be if her crafty husband made her a bread box? And so I started, and I worked, and I worked, and when I got finished with it, the lid would not go all the way closed. There was a small gap in one side. It really did look like a 5th grade crafter made this bread box. And I had all the tools. I'm just not gifted, and I'm not skilled in that particular expression. She took the gift anyway. We laughed about it. I said, I'm going to give this to you because I made it. I think for a long time we put stamps and letters and stuff like that. I painted it. I mean, it looked kind of pretty, but it was absolutely no use. It would not keep air out whatsoever for the bread. So don't ask me to make you a bread box. And this is one of the reasons that I will typically shy away from like doing arts and crafts and stuff like that. There's just something about these hands that just doesn't do that well. So that wasn't my best expression, but my expression was sincere. And sincerity is a huge part of expression. But also, let me encourage you, as you express yourself in worship, find those things that you really feel the Lord's pleasure when you do. And do that to the will and to the grace of the Lord. This Sunday, in fact, our pastor is going to be talking about the mind of Christ. And in that mind of Christ, one go-to passage is Romans 12, verses 1 and 2. And I'll share this with you, and I want you to think about this in the context of expression. It says this, I appeal to you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship. And then in verse 2 he goes on to say, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. And talking about the mind of Christ. But in that first verse, he's saying that we present ourselves, our all, as a living sacrifice. This is our true spiritual act of latreo, of worship, service. And so in that, whatever your expression may be, do it with all that you are and giving all that you are. One final story. that really expresses, if you'll let me use that term this well, was years ago, and we'll probably do this when everything calms down and COVID goes away. When I moved to Somerset, Kentucky to take the post of associate pastor for worship there, I met with every choir member. We just had a meeting just to get to know you. And so they chose times. They would come in my office, and we'd spend about an hour, and we would just talk about things. And this little alto, she was this little lady, never had any children. She was in her late 50s, early 60s, and she worked for the hospital and had worked for the hospital for decades. And, you know, she would sing to the Lord in the choir and that sort of thing. And I said, one of the questions that I asked was, how do you feel that you best express yourself as a worshiper to God? And she said, well, Brother John, I have a really strange thing that I do. She said, I work in the NICU section, you know, with especially preemies and things like that. She said, I'm a secretary there and medical records keeper, and she does all this stuff. And she said, I've done this for years. I have found that preemie babies don't have the little stocking caps like the regular size babies do. And she said, and so at night I go home and I knit little stocking caps for preemie babies. And she told me this story expecting me to go, oh, how sweet. She didn't expect to see tears running down my cheeks, because I was going, that's amazing. She thought this was just a slight, small expression, and I disagreed with her greatly. What a huge expression of love, taking her gifts and her talents and diligently doing something that serves others. And wow, isn't that a huge part of worship? Serving God and serving others. So anyway, I hope that story impressed you far better than the first one. But until then, we'll meet next Wednesday night, and also at the I'll have before Wednesday night I'll have you links for songs for our next assignment. Until then, choir, orchestra, and anybody else who's just listening, may God bless you and have a great day.